published by the WHO. He's also a faculty member at the Transportation Research and Injury Prevention Program, which is a WHO collaborating center at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. We are very fortunate to have you amongst sir. I would request our principal ma'am to please welcome sir with the painting and a plant. I would once again like to reiterate that this painting has been made by the students of our Fine Arts Society Artisto. We welcome you, sir. Can we have a round of applause, please? I will now like to invite Dr. Smriti Singh, who's the convener of this conference, to please come and share the aim and the motto of this 3 days conference that we all are part of. Dr. Smriti Singh.
Good morning to one and all. Good morning to one and all. I hope I'm audible. Respected Dr. Matthew Verghese, sir, Vaibhav sir, our dear principal ma'am, Shri Prakash sir, who has graciously accepted our invitation, and everyone. It is my privilege to introduce this conference because it was very close to my heart and it came with what to say, with experience. First of all, it is my privilege to introduce you that first World Disability Conference is attended by across the world people. We have got international participants and across the India, from IIT, from TIS, from everywhere we have got participants. They have come online. Some of them have traveled and come to us, to our college. We are privileged to have every one of you. We thought about it when new education policy was drafted. It was told that all the disabled students are supposed to get admission in all across the college, across the universities, and across the schools. When I thought about it, it was like, what to say? And we always tell that people, where doctors generally, they are scared, they don't know how to treat. Teachers, they don't know how to teach disabled students. People, they don't know. Actually, thing is this, nothing abnormal they have to do. Nothing which has to do out of the way has to go. But everybody is scared. When word of disability comes, everybody is scared. And I discussed with my mentor, Dr. Matthew Verghese, about this. He said, you all have to go and spread awareness about it. How will you do it? You have to not only conduct workshops and conferences among NGOs, but it should be done in very much inclusive environment. We held FTP in 2021, and we have come with this conference, international conference, in 2022. Thank you, sir, for inspiring for this. All our team member, Dr. Pramod, Dr. Jyoti, we all imbibe this. Yes, we have to talk about ourselves. We want that people should know about disability, then only people will be able to manage, like people will not be scared about disability. People will not have any doubts. They will find all the differently able students in the similar manner as they have thought about other students, as they would be encouraging them same way. And if support of principal ma'am like ours would be there, there could be many Smritis, many Pramods, many people like us who would be achieving heights and who can do things. Because in our college, we are given right atmosphere. We want to project this atmosphere for everyone, and we want that opportunity should reach to everyone. For that, everybody has to know first how they have to do, what they have to do, and what has to be done. all the presenters, I'm really grateful to you that you have come with the great papers, with the great ideas. All these things will transform our students, our teaching faculty, and whosoever is listening to this conference. It will inspire and sensitize everyone. Thank you so much.
As Dr. Smriti rightly said, no event in the college is complete without the support and guidance of our principal, Professor Haritma. So I request Dr. Jyoti Singh to kindly felicitate Professor Haritma with a bouquet and a painting made by the students of Kriti. It's just a small token of our love and respect for you, ma'am.
Can we have a loud round of applause?
Thank you, Jyoti. Inclusivity, as we all know, is the hallmark of an evolved society. As a nation, we take pride in our secular beliefs, and as a college, we take greater pride in the same beliefs. The enabling unit of Maitri College has always been instrumental in organizing pioneering events of relevance, which stress this theme. In 2018, we were the first college to organize a one-week faculty development program on disability studies. We continue with the tradition of organizing the first in 2021, another faculty development program come refresher course on the topic emerging accessible technologies. Now we are back again organizing the first World Disability Conference on the theme Contemporary Interventions in Disability Discourse, and this is being conducted in a hybrid mode. This is an interdisciplinary academic activity spread over 3 days. We request our esteemed guests to kindly formally inaugurate the abstract book and do the honors. We have received in all 48 abstracts, 10 of which are in Hindi and 38 in English. These will be presented across 8 technical sessions through the coming 3 days. All the registered presenters may rest assured that a copy of the abstract book will be provided to them immediately after the inaugural session.
Can we have you all give a loud round of applause? This is all your hard work going into this book. You all will get to see all the path-breaking ideas that are going to be presented through the course of this conference.
Very warm and pleasurable thank you to all the esteemed guests.
May I now request our respected principal, Professor Haritma Chopra, to please come up on the dais and address the gathering.
Thank you so much, Nupur, for inviting me. And a very good morning to one and all who are present in this video conferencing room. And I know that more than around 120 people have already joined us through the virtual platform. And this event is we are also having the live streaming on the YouTube channel of the enabling unit. So many people would be joining us from there. So this is what we can say, that technology has made a difference. And this is the actual difference. And this is what is we can say that is a symbol of what we call as an evolving society. And at the onset, I extend a very warm welcome to all our esteemed guests. I extend a warm welcome to Professor Singh, Director South Campus, for accepting our invite. I know that he is very much occupied because university at this is the centenary year of celebration of Delhi University. So many activities are going on at the same time. And I must compliment, I know that everybody in this hall and all the teachers, students, everybody would agree that this time we have got a very dynamic, we can say the authorities, because they are very actively engaged in giving the justice, giving all opportunities to students, teachers in different colleges, and that is why their task has become many-fold. And though sir had initially promised us that he would be coming to the college, but because he is so much busy and occupied, that is why he proposed that he would be joining us online. But thank you so much for accepting our invite and joining us through this online platform. And because we all can see you, so I'm sure that even the students can see, and we can, even if you are not here physically, but we would be getting the opportunity to hear out from you. Thank you so much, sir. And I also extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Matthews. As Dr. Poonam and Dr. Nupur was also saying, it has been very rightly said. And sir, if we just look into the, if we want to read anything about you from the from internet also, there are so many people who have written the remarks that you are the person who is full of positivity and you are always there. We are very light-hearted, and whenever whosoever comes to even if meet up with you for the first time, it doesn't feel as if we are meeting for this time, because you are always available, and this actually makes an entire difference. And when we have been talking about a society which is inclusive, a society which is very dynamic, where education is playing an important role, but presence of people like you would actually make a difference. So thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invite and being with us on this day. And thank you. And we also have with us Vaibhav Shrivastava ji, who is the chairperson of governing body of Methvei College. As you must have heard that while introducing him, the dynamism that he is exhibiting even at this age is really commendable. And he is there, and I'm sure with his presence, the college would be doing so many things. And because his major work lies in interacting with the parents at the school level, and maybe these things have been discussed at other forums also. But today, when I was just listening to a brief bio note of us, maybe whenever we listen to it, every time we come up with something new, something different, because this is what we call as reading in between the lines also. So I was thinking that when we talk about making a society inclusive with a special reference to students with disability, and a very important thing that comes into mind, and even Professor Singh would agree, and we were discussing during the university meetings also, that government has come up with so many policies. And in fact, the law which was introduced in RPWD 2016 Act, which has actually, the government has come up with so many opportunities to make the society inclusive. But all these things are in the paper, they are in the form of a book that can be made reality only when we as a whole work together. And when we were going through the university, the reservation policies are there. 5% of seats are reserved for students with PWD. And when we options are there, and what we have observed in this particular category is that there are no takers. In fact, when we talk about demand and supply, there are very few students who are actually coming up. So it does not mean that the people are not there, but they are lacking awareness that so many opportunities are available to them. If we just go by the statistics, we know that about 15% of world's population is suffering from some or the other disability. And if we talk specifically about India, then in India, about 30 million people are having some or the other disability. But the important thing, the major thing is that out of these 30 million people, about 70% of people, they live in the rural India, and about 30% are living in the urban sector. But if I again come down on the statistics, we observe that out of these 30%, when we talk about their literacy, in total, only about 50% of the such students, these children, they get the opportunity to study in their lifetime. And many of them, they start with school education, but they drop out. And very few, only we can maybe count on our fingers, only few thousands of the students who actually come forward to go in for their higher education. So even if policies have been made, we have made reservation for them, but this reservation will not have any meaning unless students, they come forward and grab these opportunities which are there for them. So when we are making a society, and when we talk about national education policy, where we will say that the national education policy, the foundation of this lies on making the society inclusive. And why it has been thought of? Because we know that education is the backbone of any society. And if people are educated, then many problems can be solved. And when we talk about making people literate, generating employment for them, these are the major sectors in which we need to work. And as we were talking about the statistics of the people with the disability, it was observed that very few people, they actually get into employment. But when we are coming up with so many entrepreneurship, when we are ideas of entrepreneurship, having their own startups, then maybe there are certain things that we need to take care of. And we need to, as Smriti was also saying, that at this moment, the need is to create awareness, to interact with the people. And I was going through the data. It is not that for the first time, Maitreyi College has come up with some initiative. We have been doing these things for the past so many years. And I was just going through one of the studies which was done under the Center for Research of our college in the year 2019, where the students, the students from Hindi department, they had worked on a project also, which was catering to how can we make the society equitable, barrier free, and it is available to all for people with disabilities. And yesterday only, when I was going through few of the clippings of the same, the students of our college, they had interacted with the students who are visually challenged, and they were saying that we know what they proposed was that we got the opportunity to come at the higher education. We are pursuing our higher education, but the need of the hour is that we must create awareness among the parents that they have to send their child for education. And at the same time, all those parents who have taken up this initiative, they are actually they can be the role model for the others. So such parents should be acknowledged, they should be felicitated also, so that it gives a boost to the morale of other people that life is not dull, life is always bright. And this is the other side of the coin also, that we should know that there are so many opportunities. And I must compliment our enabling unit, because from time to time they have come up with the program. In fact, for the last 2 to 3 years, we have also been organizing the program workshop on career opportunities in the area of disability. Even such workshops have been organized. But again, our concern is that we have been catering to only a fraction of the person with whom we can interact at this level. Maybe the broader spectrum would be that when we are interacting with the students, maybe we need to do some door-to-door campaigning also. We need to interact with those. And for doing such activities, if we need the support of the university, college students, I'm sure our students would always be very happy and they would readily be coming forward to interact with the students, make them understand, make their parents understand that how important is education. And when we talk about these deliberations, when we want to discuss on these points, I'm sure we need a conference of such a stature. And this is why this thought has been conceptualized, and we all are here. As Smriti was just mentioning, that we have participants across the globe who are coming up with their thoughts. And maybe when we have so many deliberations on this topic, I think there would be many ideas that would pop in and that would maybe help in making some policy decisions also. Like I was going through the abstract book when we were finalizing, maybe I would like to make, this was one paper which I actually liked. There are so many papers, but I would like to make a special mention of one here, because when we are talking about making everybody equitable, means everybody has the right to live, right to employment. And at the same time, if we know that about 69% of the people with disability, they live in the rural area. And in rural area, agriculture is very important. In fact, that is the main source of living for them. And this is a paper by Dr. Poonam only, where they had deliberated on the fact that with the advent of science, when we are talking about new technologies, when hydroponics is coming into play, where the people, they can grow and their people are earning lakhs of money, where that much of physical effort is not required. So the need of the hour is that we need to club together the scientific advancements. We need to actually have a correct mindset of the people, and we need to have people coming together, working on the same platform. And I'm sure that the dream that we all cherish, that every individual who is part of this society is leading a life with respect and dignity, and all are there to respect for one another, and everyone is able to make, and this society is actually a society which we all cherish for. And this particular conference would certainly be a milestone in this direction, because so many deliberations would be on. And at this time, I would also like to acknowledge the contribution of National Institute of Visually Handicapped, Dehradun, which is a government body, and they have accepted our request to collaborate with us. And in fact, for this particular year, about 9 events have already been planned by the enabling unit of our college. Shortly, they are planning to come up with their own journal on disabilities. It would be a journal of its own kind, because there is no such journal which is even a part of UGC care list. So I congratulate them. And the institute, I wish to thank Dr. Himanshu for his voluntarily accepting this, and because they have said that they would be giving us the financial support, and money has already been credited into our account, and for the entire year they are there to support us, because when we want to do something, financials are always required, and when finance is there, I'm sure the enabling unit would be more comfortable coming up with very innovative projects. And maybe we will have another conference after 1 year, after the end of this academic year, where we would be able to actually see, and we would be able to compute that how far we have progressed, and whether we could bring about a small change. As I was reading the note which was written by the conveners, where they were saying that there is so much that needs to be done, and this initiative of ours is like a drop in the bucket. But I'm sure that when we keep putting these drops into the bucket, one day this bucket would be full, and that is what we are actually investing for. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak, and I once again take this opportunity to thank all our esteemed guests for being with us. And I also thank all my students because they are here, and I know that they would be here for 3 days. Many of our participants, especially from Hyderabad, I suppose, right? They have joined in person, so I heartily welcome them at Maitrey College. I am sure that this stay in the Delhi would be very memorable one for you. And we have all our participants who have joined us virtually. So I once again extend a very warm welcome to one and all. So thank you so much for your patient hearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Haritma, for once again summarizing the very essence of this conference in such a nice way. I now request Shri Vaibhav Srivastav ji, our guest of honor, to kindly come forward and address the gathering.
सभी को नमस्कार. Honorable Chief Guest of this the gathering, Shri Prakash Singh sir, Director South Campus, Dr. Matthew, Senior Orthopedic Surgeon and a well-known doctor to everyone all across Delhi, respected Principal Ma'am, Professor Haritma Chopra, Convener Smriti ji, all the teachers who have done a brilliant and a phenomenal job in putting this seminar, this 2-3 days of workshop and this presentation, which is in collaboration with National Divyang Employee Welfare Association and the National Institute of Visually Handicapped Dehradun. So, and all the students who have joined in person, online, everyone, sabhi ko Maitri Pranam. It is a I was in this school, so we have gone through we have completed our schooling, then we have came across in the engineering, and then I have completed my engineering and working in the corporate when I have started working with the Delhi government, and particularly in the education. So there is a word called CWSN, Children with Special Needs. So 2-3 साल मैंने एजुकेशन पॉलिसीज पे ट्रेनिंग्स पे काम किया, लेकिन इवन आफ्टर दैट हमें भी नहीं पता था कि ये टर्मिनोलॉजी एग्जिस्ट करती है, या फिर इस तरह की एक समाज में एक बहुत बड़ा वर्ग है जो अपनी राइटफुल नीड्स के लिए अभी भी स्ट्रगल कर रहा है. तो द पॉइंट इज, इतना 7 साल मैंने जब एजुकेशन में काम किया है on different diaspora, different platform, and each and every aspect of the education, basically in primary education. So मुझे एक चीज मैंने समझ लिया कि disability is only with the mindset. It has nothing to do with your physical appearance, any part, any appearance, anything else. Disability is only with the mindset. Governments, just state governments, central government, every government is doing a great job. जो भी राइट टाइमली इंटरवेंशन करनी चाहिए गवर्नमेंट को, गवर्नमेंट कर रही है. द ओनली पार्ट इज नाउ द सोसाइटी हैज टू कम फॉरवर्ड. हम लोग ने अपनी स्कूलिंग कंप्लीट कर ली, एजुकेशन कंप्लीट कर ली. मैं भी एक क्रिश्चियन मिशनरी के कॉलेज स्कूल से मैंने अपनी प्राइमरी एजुकेशन कंप्लीट की. इवन वी हैव डोंट कम टू द फैमिली लाइक गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस को तो हम ब्लेम करते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में ये नहीं होता है, गवर्नमेंट कॉलेजेस में ऐसा नहीं होता है, ये इस तरह के टॉपिक डिस्कस करने के लिए फेमिलियरिटी नहीं दी जाती है. लेकिन इवन प्राइवेट स्कूल्स में भी, या प्राइवेट एजुकेशन जो पूरा पैन इंडिया, आई हैवंट सीन कि इस तरह की कोई फेमिलियरिटी उनको दी जाती है, बच्चों को, पेरेंट्स को, टीचर्स को, कि यू हैव टू कम अक्रॉस इस तरह की कि देयर इज अ चिल्ड्रंस, देयर इज अ वेरी लार्ज डिस्पोरा इन द सोसाइटी which need special attention, which need timely intervention, या उनकी special needs हैं, उनको आप उनके साथ familiar रहो. ये कोई एक बहुत ही संवेदनशील विषय जिसके प्रति आपको जानना चाहिए, जिसके प्रति आपको कनेक्ट होना चाहिए। ऐसा कहीं मैंने इस तरह की चीजें सोसाइटी के टर्म्स में नहीं देखी। गवर्नमेंट्स ने अपना रोल प्ले किया है, बी इट इन अ जॉब रिजर्वेशंस, बी इट इन एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन फ्रेमवर्क, डूइंग द वर्कशॉप, डूइंग द पुटिंग द आइडियाज अक्रॉस। गवर्नमेंट अपना टाइमली काम करती है, ब्रिंगिंग द एक्ट्स, ब्रिंगिंग द रूल्स, बट वी हैव टू थिंक एज अ सोसाइटी। और जब मैम ने कहा, मैम ने बिल्कुल, आई टोटली एग्री विद द फैक्ट कि वट एवर द we are sitting in a Maitri college, and this is a great privilege and honor for me to be a chairperson of this Maitri college। की मैं जब भी इस कॉलेज में इंटरेक्ट करता हूँ, जब भी इस कॉलेज में आई केम अक्रॉस, आई गॉट टू नो व्हाट अ फिनोमिनल आइडियाज, एंड वो आइडियाज नहीं होते, वो एक्चुअली इम्प्लीमेंट होते हैं। और इस तरह के वर्कशॉप, इस तरह के जर्नल्स, इस तरह की मैगजीन्स के फॉर्म में होते हैं, जो सोसाइटी को हमेशा, नॉट ओनली इट इज लिमिटेड टू अ Maitri campus or Delhi University, it give a path breaking thing for all India, for all across the institution, all organizations, कि वो समझ सके इन सब चीजों को, they can be a part of it, they can learn what is happening all across। so इस workshop को, I know कि there is a lot of presentations, and I also will be a, जब भी मुझे समय मिलेगा, I will also be a part of this, कि जितने भी presentations हो रहे हैं, which is really going to contribute a lot, which is going हमें एक rightful thought देंगे इस society में और इस पूरे paradigm को 360 degree सोचने के लिए। But we all a special congratulations to all the parts, all the stakeholders, all the partners who have aligned with this Maitri institutions, and हमारे साथ मिलके वो इस तरह इस कोलैबोरेटिव वर्कशॉप को आपने सक्सेसफुल बनाया। For me, again, I put in a thought, disability is a very unexplored topic। इसमें political interventions, political priorities, critical disclosures, critical thinking, और ये जो strategic needs की जरूरत है, वो institutions level पे, societal level पे उसकी बहुत आवश्यकता है। that need to be prioritized amongst this, and this all the civil society members has to come forward. It's not only limited to any state government, any civil government, or any kind of government's responsibility to come up with an act, come up with a binding factors कि नहीं 5% रिजर्वेशन होना चाहिए, तभी हम उनको सही आप उनको सही महत्व देंगे। Reservations has always bring a phenomenal job to put in the right representation, but beyond this we have to think in our direction। It is not related to a कागजी factor कि कागज में लिखा है इसलिए हम कर रहे हैं। कागज में लिख रहा है कि 2 वर्कशॉप करनी है सरकार की तरफ से, इंस्टीट्यूशंस की तरफ से, तो हम कर रहे हैं। जिस तरह मैत्री और थ्रू दिस वर्कशॉप आई वांट टू वॉइस द ओपिनियन कि मैत्री एंड उसके बियॉन्ड, मैत्री ने हमेशा अपना रोल सोसाइटियल लेवल पे, यूनिवर्सिटी के कॉलेज लेवल पे हमेशा किया है, लेकिन इसके बियॉन्ड सभी को, सोसाइटी को, सभी सिविल सोसाइटी के मेंबर्स को ये सोचने की जरूरत है, हाउ कैन वी इंटरवीन, हाउ कैन वी पुट वे फॉरवर्ड इन दिस। A large discourse analysis is there, rightful thought is there, rightful working is there, there is a lot of works, themes, not only in India, all like a pan word, like I was I was just going through the thought of University of Norway, John Pinson. He has put a very notable work about this. His whatever he has gone through this disability disclosure, what are the way forwards, how can we look beyond, how can we, what is the present status, how are the it is not related to any particular part of the word, it is related to a word as a whole, but still there is he had point, even we have also gone through this, like practical implementation is still lagging। कोई भी government हो, I am a part of a certain government, I know this, कोई भी government हो, practical implementation होना अभी भी बहुत बाकी है, and we need to think on this। The identity makers of the class have divided the class, genders, race, ethnicity, and it is always be supplemented by the act of disability। We have gone through that United Nations Convention on People with Disability was adopted in 2007. So far, it has been adopted by 144 countries out of 195. and it has been ratified by 48 countries. Disabilities, which it is a long pending thing, which has been put in the mosaics of uh, blindness, deafness, dumbness, crippleness, has been articulated as a distinct pattern of oppression, discrimination, and a stigma. Now, with contemporary interventions, be it in the government side, be in the societal side, be in the institutional side of disability studies, it has become established academic principles aimed to explore new territory. Like other disciplines, they have been their different origin in activism, but for this disability studies, it has been origin with the concern and the issue of social justice. So now we have to think in that direction, how this disability disclosures has been put across, how we have to come forward, how we have to take this torch way ahead in the society, in the as a form of parents, as a form of civil society members. And disability disclosure should not be limited to any kind of job reservations, educational institution reservation, or any kind of support infrastructure. It needs a parallel design so that starting marks should be same and equal for all. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. And big congratulations to the team. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing those thoughts. There was a particular emphasis on implementation from your side, and you also said that how disability is a topic, is an idea which is relevant across different fields, not just in education, but even in policy and everywhere. And we do take a note of it. And I'm sure that all of us who've joined us here are going to do our level best in our respective fields and make this collective social dream come true. I will now request our chief guest, Professor Sri Prakash Singh Ji, to please address the gathering.
Thank you so much, Maitri College, for having me here in this program. I'm audible. It's audible now.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Thank you, Professor Haritima ji, Enabling Unit, Maitri College, Dr. Pramod, Dr. Smriti Singh, Jyoti, Dr. Mithila Bagai, all made this possible for me to be with you because of this virtual mode. Thank you so much, Maitri College, for inviting me. And today, on this occasion, we have Dr. Matthew Varghese as a keynote speaker. My experience with St. Stephen's Hospital due to some family members have been such that perhaps he is the fittest person to be on this panel to deliberate on this very issue. The kind of man he is, the kind of affection he shares with his patients, it's exemplary. On behalf of Delhi University, on behalf of South Campus Fraternity, I welcome you, Dr. Varghese, in this very campus and salute you all what you have been doing to the humanity. Mr. Vaibhav Srivastava, Chairman of Maitri College, dear colleagues, students, and participants from all across the world, good morning you all. And friends, it's not a seminar, it's not a conference only. It's a cause, and I congratulate enabling unit of Maitri College, Smriti Singh and Pramod, for initiating this conference. Every policy needs an awareness. Every policy needs some push, some force. And if academia takes lead in it, then policy becomes reality to the society. Whatever facilities we have today in form of reservations, proper admissions, proper execution in case of recruitments, all because of efforts initiated by some of young activists like Pramod and Smriti. Haritima ji, I'm known to Pramod almost 20 years when he was doing his research programs with and was staying in University of Delhi hostel. I've seen working of Pramod, how he has been working for the society and the concerns and cause he has been taking very forcefully to the various institutions. Such passionate peoples Maitri College have as a faculty. I congratulate Maitri College and congratulate the Maitri family for providing space and atmosphere to these faculty members to work toward the society. Is looking towards us with hope and aspirations. And when I was trying to read few lines from here and there, UNDP programs, Agenda 2030, Sustainable Development in quotes, to leave no one behind, to leave no one behind, quote close. This is the policy of our international organizations as well as our government also. When Prime Minister Modi says, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, that spirit is very much there. And this terminology, Divyang, became popular because of his initiatives and assertions to the academia and society. Today, the discourse is very much there. It is established one. Now it is well accepted one. While listening Haritima ji, I was thinking about my own school days and college days. When students of some disabilities, how they were treated, how society was responsive to them. Forget the society at large, even the family members. How that had changed in a positive direction. No one discussed those problems which faced by earlier perceptions in society. Now society is looking towards them with positive notions, and they have their own space and they have been excelling, whether it's sports, whether it's education or media or in any of the fields that they have been excelling like anything. Through this platform, I congratulate all students and faculty members, those who are involved in this wonderful cause of making them awaken towards their aims, objectives, policies, and how they can achieve and how can they be with others in the society with their own spaces. That is the primary focus of our university also. When I'm discussing with you from this very academic session, our own university is going to start a center where our own faculty members, Professor Anil Taneja and Professor Bipin Tiwari will be looking after these institutional activities. And being part of administration, I can say that will provide all sort of facilities to make this center functional and one of the best center looking after the enabling processes of the disability community. The Sugamya Bharat was started, and we at our university are committed to make our university Sugamya for everyone. There was definitely some problems in our universities also. A student of mine who was doing post-graduation from South Campus, now he is pursuing PhD. He wrote many letters to university system, providing some facilities so that he and others can attend classes without any hindrance, without any problem. And being a faculty member, we were definitely trying to help, but were not in position to. Now, I'm looking after such things, and we had planned, rather we are in position to execute few things in South Campus also. Whatever problems our students with disabilities were facing, those problems will be resolved. Braille library, previously that was functional nearby SP Jain Center. I have instructed my office and our secretarial staff to South Campus that make an arrangement for this in library itself, so that our students, those who have some difficulties, they can be treated properly in the system and they can develop themselves to the fullest of their ability. Now, coming back to this event becomes much more significant because of its positivity, because of its effort, because of its motivational level, because of awareness. It's not that out 100 people are attending this program through virtual media. Lots of people might be watching on YouTube live. Hundreds of faculty members and students are attending this program physically. All can become a torch bearer. All can become ambassadors to such policies and initiatives of the government and the initiatives taken by our enabling units at the university level. We can learn from each other and we can help each other so that this society becomes more inclusive and more lovely place to live with each other. With these words, I would like to conclude and like to congratulate the enabling unit of Maitri College, Professor Haritima ji, Dr. Smriti Singh, Pramod Singh and team, and the participants members, those who will be participating as participant or speaker in coming 3 days, and the college at large. With these words, I conclude. Thank you so much, Maitri College, having me here. And I can assure you on behalf of administration of Delhi University that we are very much there if needed for any kind of help in this wonderful cause initiated by the college, Maitri College. Thank you so much. Now I would like to listen Dr. Matthew Varghese, because what he has done to the humanity, that is exemplary. Thank you so much. आप अनम्यूट कर लीजिए अपने आप।
Sorry, sir, I was muted. So once again, I would like to thank you for your warm and encouraging words. And as you rightly pointed out, this is not just a workshop or a conference. It is in fact a movement. And we are indeed privileged and honored that we are pioneers in this movement. And we hope that with the support of the university and all other possible places, we are able to take this movement forward and spread it across society, not just within Delhi, but pan-India, as Vaibhav Srivastava sir also said. And sir, you also rightly said that the vision of the Prime Minister, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, we are hoping and we are, हम उसके लिए बहुत उत्सुक हैं कि हम सबको साथ लेकर चले और तभी साथ में विकास होगा, ना केवल हमारी सोसाइटी का, पर in general, the entire universe would be a better place to be. So thank you once again, sir, for being with us and joining us. And it is indeed my pleasure and honor to welcome Dr. Matthews Verghese, the keynote speaker. And we are really looking forward to your thoughts and your vision, sir. Please, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Shri Prakash Singh Ji, Honorable Chairperson of Maitreya College, Mr. Vaibhav, Honorable Principal of Maitreya College, Professor Haritma, Dr. Smriti, Dr. Pramod, the entire enabling unit team here, and participants and delegates across the cyber world. I'm indeed humbled by those generous words from Professor Sri Prakash. Very generous of you, sir. Thank you so much. It's really humbling to listen to your praise sitting in front. I only do a little bit. Professor Haritima said, what we do is a drop in the bucket. What I do, as Mother Teresa said, is a drop in the ocean. But Mother Teresa also said, if we didn't do what we did, the ocean would be poorer by that drop. That is the beauty of even little efforts. Our own Ramayana is filled with such episodes. Even the squirrel did its bit in building the bridge for Rama to cross across to Lanka. And the stripes on the back of the squirrel is a stroke in appreciation by Lord Rama. So even historically, these little efforts are commendable, and they always, as Neil Armstrong said, one step for mankind, one step for me, but a giant leap for mankind. That is the initiative's power. And I'll quote a recluse here. This is about inclusion, but I'm quoting a recluse. There's a difference. A recluse is by choice, by conscious choice. Inclusion and exclusion are societal prerogatives, societal imperatives. A recluse, J.M. Coetzee, the Nobel Prize winner, he said, And this is in one of his very famous books that he writes through one of the key persons in the story, the Master of Petersburg. He writes, "You want to change her, plant a seed in her soul. Plant a seed in her soul. Unless it is embedded in your mind, you do not change. Plant a seed in that person's soul. You need to plant a seed in society's soul. Until that happens, change cannot happen." Our late Honorable President APJ Abdul Kalam said, "The best dreams are those that you dream with your eyes open." Dream with your eyes open, then you realize your dreams. Yet, there are so many in this world that are not able to dream. And I'll just take you through a small emotive writing which was done when I read about a child labor in a garage under a tarpaulin where sunlight was filtering through. Dreams without soul. Sunlight filtered through holes in the canvas of a garage awning, danced on the soiled cheeks of a boy whose childhood was stolen from him. They were still stealing from him, day after day, killing him, they say, but they were mostly after the most precious in him, his soul. Changing his soul. Yes, they almost had it now. Any day now, it'll be theirs. Then he'll be one among them, bonded for life to a brotherhood of soulless laborers, while flecks of light played on the cheeks of the little boy. But wait, there is still some light reflecting off those dreamy eyes. Can that be a vision? Can there be a vision of hope in a soulless child? When the nightmare of living existence was hovering so hopelessly around, while light and shade played hide and seek on the cheeks of a boy whose childhood was stolen from him. Yes, there is hope. Hope of a dream and its realization. And the responsibility of realization of this child's dream rests on us as a society. Because tomorrow, history will ask us, what did we do then? That is our responsibility. Thank you, Professor Haritima. Thank you, Smriti. Thank you, Pramod, and the entire team here for taking this opportunity to flag this in the hope of planting a seed in the souls of people around the world. Professor Haritima quoted statistics. 1 billion people, 15% of the world's population has a disability. And all policymakers and politicians love to say that with economic development, we'll bring it down. And I always quote my professor, Professor Dinesh Mohan, on this. When economic development happens, when healthcare improves, when systems evolve to be better technologically, to be better in different ways, your disability will not decrease, it will increase. And unless we as a society are prepared for that increase in disability, we will be short-sighted. It is important. A lot of people say, no, how is it possible? It has to decrease. No, polio has been eradicated. Yes, it has been eradicated. So I should be jobless. No, there are new polios on the block. There are cerebral palsy. There are other congenital conditions. Children with severe hypoxic insult to the brain survive in neonatal ICUs and sick kids units. Patients with severe cancers end up with amputations. Patients with severe cancers and Alzheimer's are surviving. They're adding on to the burden of disability around the world. So with evolving societies and developing economies, you're going to have an increase in the numbers. It has to be understood. But you also have to understand that disability is part of the human condition. And almost everyone will be temporarily or permanently impaired at some point in their life. And disability is contextual. If I had forgotten to pick up my glasses in the car, I would be handicapped here. I will be disabled. So a fully abled and so-called normal person, normal within quotes, is going to be disabled there. Also, one has to understand disability may be revealed or it may be concealed also. Irving Goffman, when he wrote in Stigma, he brought it out beautifully. The revealed are the physically grotesque, amputated or visually impaired, or the other conditions that are paralytic and other physical disabilities. And the concealed are the ones who have mental illness, intellectual challenges, Down syndrome, and autism. Everything looks normal, physically beautiful, until you realize they cannot interact socially. So the revealed and the concealed, is the society prepared only for the revealed, or is it prepared also for the concealed? And mental health becomes a major issue here. It is a major issue because there's a huge stigma attached to mental health. Olden days, we had exclusive hospitals for mental health. Oh, Shadra mental hai wo to. Agra mein mental hai wo to. The stigma is in the wording itself. Mental itself is a stigmatized word. Unless you understand this stigma, you will not be able to take action to move ahead, to include them in your society. Human existence itself, as an infant, you're completely dependent on your mother and father. Everyone has been an infant sometime or the other. And as you grow older, you're senior citizens. They're all completely dependent. So don't forget, you had a chance as a little baby to survive that period of disability because of the love and affection and care of your mother. Your turn will come to be looked after by children if you have, by joint family system if you have, and if you have none of these, you have to rely on societal social security support mechanisms. So the family has a role here, the society has a role here, the policymakers have a role here to ensure that you're taking care of everyone. A civilized society is that society which can take care of its weakest, not the strongest, the weakest. Only then you have a right to be called a civilized society. Remember, what you experienced as a baby in your mother, arm of your mother, is something that a severely disabled child's mother and the child is experiencing throughout the life. It's throughout the life of complete dependency, like an infant. I have 5-year-olds coming to me, I have 8-year-olds coming to me, whose chronological age is 8, but the physiological age is 6 months. Still an infant, an 8-year-old baby. And mother cries to me, Doctor Sahab, उठाया नहीं जाता, भारी हो गया है अब. मेरे से चला नहीं देता, कमर में दर्द होती है. It's so painful to hear that. Not that she's lacking in love, but the fact that to translate that love into physical action needs a huge effort. We have to recognize that. throughout life. The operative word is throughout life, not just 1 or 2 days. We may have experienced fractures and temporary disability from minor, little injuries or whatever. That doesn't lead to any stigma. I deal with many of them. Once upon a time, I worked in a leprosy colony. And I used to treat many of them coming to my hospital. One of them, in the evening, I was on emergency duty, had an injury, and he needed an X-ray. I took him to the X-ray room, got a file made from the casualty, took him to the X-ray room, and made him sit on the bench. Gave the form to the radiology technician and told the patient that I'll come back in half an hour, look at your X-ray. By the time the X-ray will be ready, and I'll take care of you. I made him sit on the bench there. There was no one else. It was a light emergency. When I came back, the bench was still empty and he was sitting on the floor. I was upset. I don't like patients sitting on the floor. So I told him, why are you sitting on the floor? No, doctor साहब, कोई ना कोई आएगा और हमको नीचे बिठा देगा. हम जो है कोड़ी है ना. I am a leper. The word is derogatory. Should not use it. But he used the term himself, internalizing the stigma. कोड़ी हूं ना, मेरे को देख के कोई नीचे बिठा देगा. इसलिए हमने कहा पहले से नीचे बैठ जाते हैं. पहले से नीचे बैठ जाते हैं. The stigma is so hardwired in them that they internalize it to their day-to-day existence and interactions with society. It's amazing how stigma changes you, and that stigma has been planted in the souls of these persons with disability. How do you extricate that? And how do you plant the seeds of inclusiveness in society? That is our challenge. But at the same time, it's an opportunity because awareness is growing that this is the answer. Inclusiveness is the answer, and therefore we have to work. Again, I'll quote Poesy here. Fascinating person in terms of understanding human emotions and relationships. Poesy writes in his book, Life and Times of Michael Caine. Michael Caine was born with cleft lip. And the midwife who gave birth to him told the mother that it will improve with time. No cleft ever improves with time. It only gets worse with time. Michael Caine never had any girlfriends as he grew up. His deformity never changed. The grotesque do not have social relationships that the normal have. The grotesque deformity of cleft lip. That is a sad commentary. He was sent to his normal school, but taken out of a normal school and put in an institution funded by the state. So the state is doing something. But did it change him? It didn't change him. Did it change his stigma? It didn't change his stigma. What needed to be changed was his access to care, that grotesqueness on his face, which he was so ashamed of, could be removed. There is technology available. There is enough treatment facilities available, which was denied him. And therefore, it remained and carried on with his life when he moved around with the ashes of his mother in Civil War, South Africa. That story is a telling commentary on society where we have not done what we had as a responsibility socially. The Convention for Rights of the Person with Disability, Article 25, requires that the state recognize that persons with disability have the right to enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health without discrimination of disability. Beautiful concept. The Article 26 also clearly aims to enable persons with disability to attain the and maintain their maximum independence, full physical, mental, social, and vocational ability, and full inclusion and participation in all aspects of life. Beautiful words in print, beautiful words on the shelves of UN and bureaucratic channels, but to be translated to action, it needs huge societal change. That is what we need to recognize. There are huge global gaps in achieving this. In the provision of access, for example, only 26 to 55% of people have received medical rehabilitation. India has been free from polio from 2011, declared free in 2013 by WHO. So people tell me, you shouldn't be seeing polio, no? To khatam ho gaya na? Khatam ho gaya, but the paralyzed are still around. They are only growing older. Today morning also, while coming here, I got a call of a doctor saying that, no, a patient hai, he has been referred to, he's got polio, and he's been diagnosed as post-polio syndrome. So as the disease has affected so many, 50,000 across the country annually was the figure in pre-1990, 3,000 alone in Delhi annually. So the burden of children that were paralyzed is still around. They're around. They're still paralyzed and limping around and crawling around, and they still come crawling to me. And it's a challenge trying to get them back, get them to access care. Because now the experts who can take care of polio, they no longer there. Most of the ones from whom I learned, most of my teachers are dead, except for a handful of them. They taught me polio, and nobody calls me for teaching them polio. Nobody calls me, because that's not part of the agenda for learning of postgraduates, because they see other conditions. They call me for other things, not for polio. Polio, they refer to me. But there is a need globally of some people with this kind of a skill. 4 years back, before COVID, I was invited to the US for a conference on pediatric orthopedics, where they were talking about polio. And I was surprised, why are they talking about polio? I didn't understand that till I reached there. The hall was full, double the numbers that are seen here. And I understood the meaning of that conference only when the first presenter said, there are several polio-like paralytic conditions that is happening in the US because of other types of enteroviruses, bird flu viruses, and other viruses. So there is a need for retain the knowledge and skills for dealing with paralyzed children even today. And having a repository of such knowledge. But the Secretary General of United Nations is quoted that more people are convinced that the globalization is not working for them. 2 of every 3 people live in countries where inequality has grown and confidence in political establishments is going down. This is Secretary General of United Nations. So we have to restore that confidence that they are doing what they need to do and they're changing what is needed to be changed. And conferences like this, it's important that we change from exclusion to inclusion and change from humiliation to respect and dignity. But it's not easy. It's not easy, as Nirja Chandoke has said, it is not easy to establish a relationship between tangible things such as material resources, income, shelter, education, and healthcare, and the cultivation of sentiments such as self-respect, self-esteem, and a sense of self-worth. The most important thing for a human being to be happy is to have a sense of self-worth and have the feeling that people value their relationship with them. Mutual respect and relationships that is valued. Until you have that, life is not worth living, but it's difficult to quantify. So there is a need for theoretical foundations on this, psychologically, theoretical foundations on this sociologically. Both are important. You have to have the understanding of both. Gopal Guru, professor, also, it's a lovely book, Humiliation, which he's written, he's edited, emphasizes that emergence of modern society is both enabling and constraining. See such contradictory terms. While we are enabling, we are also constraining so many things at the same time. A sociologist like Ashish Nandi feels that the feeling of humiliation from a stigma is a two-way process. And I remember this very vividly. I was on a survey of polio children in a neighboring district in Haryana. And I went there, I was on a jeep, and I was returning back, and I saw this child who had crutches, flail limbs, with obviously deformed legs. I stopped my car. I waited for him to come, and he was going to cross the road. I waited for him to come near the jeep. I waved to him. I said, "आपका ये पैर मैं सीधा कर सकता हूँ, और आप बगैर बैसाखी के चल सकते हैं. I can straighten your legs and you can walk without crutches." He looked at me, then looked behind. Behind him were about 15 buffaloes. He asked me again, "वो पीछे देख रहे हैं ना भैंस? You seeing those buffaloes?" I said, "Yes. मैं उनको चरवा के लाया हूँ. I have taken them out for grazing. मेरे भाई जो करते हैं वो सब कुछ मैं करता हूँ. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है जो मैं नहीं कर सकता हूँ. मेरे को कोई ऑपरेशन नहीं करा." That suddenly resonates with the idea that you also have to be empowered enough to have that feeling. So we need to have a two-way process to actually make it a depressing situation. Our societal discourse is based on the understanding that you have to have a productive society. And a productive society has individuals that are producing a produce. And our GDP, those of you who are economic students can look up Bretton Woods, 40s, post-war Europe created the concept of GDP, gross domestic produce. The concept of GDP evolved from the production that is part of societal production, which gives an economic worth to that community. So if you're not producing, you're not economically worth. And production has a social contract that goes with it. So our societal discourse has a social contract wherein you're producing something and a value is put to it by the economist, and it gets added on to the gross domestic produce. And you show to the world that our GDP is so high. It is running faster than any other country. That's the catch. The catch is the parameters that will define your GDP. Number of cars, number of bicycles, number of motorcycles, number of fossil fuel things, which are so non-sustainable for the planet, are also part of a GDP. A mother caring for a disabled child is doing work day in and out, day out, grinding work day in and day out. but that's not part of GDP. It is part of love and affection. There is no GDP there. And if there is no GDP there, there is no economic worth to it. It is only the women's movement, women's rights movement that has come out with GDP to be included for all the housewives. The fashionable term now is not housewives, homemakers. So there is no work to that homemaker who is sitting at home and taking care of children, and especially if it's a disabled child, there is no worth for her at all. Whereas it is a lifetime of grinding work. I deal with them every day. Mother, father, both of them. But it's not that it's a one-way process. They also derive joy out of the care and love and the affection that they give. It's so easy to understand. Human emotions are really thriving only on few of this love, worth, respect, dignity. These are key operative words of human existence that give meaning to our life. But do we have good laws in the society that can take care of the disabled? What does our constitution say? Economic and social rights are subjective rights in domestic law, capable of being invoked by an individual in a court as a basis of lawsuit or an appeal. Do we have that? Not really. We have societal rights, but not individual rights to claim. I'll just explain what I'm meaning by this. The classic case is the Fusa case in Norway, where a multiply disabled person requested for some facilities from the municipality. Municipality said, we can't give you this. It's not there in the provisions of the state social welfare system. They have Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark. The Nordic countries are, in terms of social responsibility, they are actually global leaders and examples to the rest of the world, and how they take care of the children and the elderly. When you go there, you realize this. A mother who has a baby gets a 2-year vacation. 2-year vacation. Not 6 months. Why? Up to 2 years, till the child has bonded well with the mother, the child has to be with the mother, period. The father can get another 2 years. 4 years now. Child is 4 years. At 4 years, the child goes to a state-run state care home, child care place, where a crush, it's not private. It is not privatized. It is funded by taxes. They have the highest taxes, about 40 to 50% of their income of everyone is taxed. But the tax is used for this kind of a welfare. And once the child has started going to school, then your responsibility ends. But once you've passed 65, 70, you have the option of going to a state-run senior citizens home. And they create homes. They are now in India, they're getting privatized. Elderly care is a major issue because nuclear families are growing and children are no longer with their parents. The empty nest syndrome. Upper class, both children, they are in the US. Upper middle class, children are in the US. Husband and wife are alone. As long as they are good, they are good. I have patients coming to me who say, Doctor Sahab, duple house hai, but upar wala band kar rakha hai. Living room में सोते हैं, drawing room में सोते हैं क्योंकि चढ़ाई नहीं कर सकते. घुटने जवाब दे गए. Our knees are packed up, can't climb the stairs, and therefore we are on the ground floor. Duple house, very, very exciting when you're a young person, technocrat. You have Adobe, Oracle, all these companies. They have marketed golf view duple houses, independent house. Looks beautiful. But you don't plan for, no one plans for old age, and no one plans for the type of life that you're likely to have when you're past your 70s, 80s, 90s. You have to recognize that the right to life with human dignity is enshrined in Article 21, derives life breath from the directive principle of state policy, and particularly clauses E and F of Article 39 and Article 41 and 42. Our constitution is brilliantly designed, and that person who designed that constitution, he said something which is remarkable. शिक्षित हो, संगठित हो, संघर्ष करो. 3 classic words, quotable quotes from Ambedkar. शिक्षित हो, educated, be educated. It's an emphatic thing that is telling you, be educated. संगठित हो, be organized. And संघर्ष करो, and fight for your rights. And your rights are enshrined in our constitution, and especially the right to life. It's enshrined in our constitution. And the right to life also includes right to health, access to health. And the beauty of this is education allows you to have a quality of life that empowers you to have good health and good living and good nutrition. So education is also embedded in the right to life article of our constitution. It's defined there. It is clearly defined there. And Amendment Act of 2002 introduced in Article 21A. Article 21 is the directive, the article for right to life. 21A clearly makes the right to education a fundamental right. This is the reason. It's part of 21, right to life. It's part of 21 because your life changes with better access to health, better economic power, and better ability to do things. The Supreme Court has implied right to education derives from also, that's the Supreme Court also says the same thing. It derives from Article 21. And we have to understand this. Inclusion is an important part. The article provides that state provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age 6 to 14 years. Free and compulsory. Free and compulsory. There's a coercion there. You have no choice. You can't keep your child at home. You have to. But that recitation that I did right in the beginning was of a boy in today's time. This is last year. Garage boy. Right to education enshrines it, but translate into action, how many of them have that? It's a problem. When children play and study together, caste and religious differences do not seem to matter. Even economic differences are obliterated when the bonds of friendship flourish. Bonds of friendship. Such a beautiful word, bonds of friendship. If a disabled child cannot go to school, how do you develop bonds of friendship? If he doesn't interact with other children, how do you develop bonds of friendship? If he cannot go out to play, how do you develop bonds of friendship? That's something which you have to internalize and understand. I vividly recollect a child who had a foot deformity, and I corrected his deformity. He was 6 years old, I think. And after surgery, plaster was given and then plaster was taken off. And when the plaster was taken off, his feet looked normal. He was very excited. And I said, "Kaisa dikh raha hai?" He said, "Bahut acha, Doctor Sahab, ab mere dost banenge." My jaw fell. He said, "Ab mere dost banenge." मैंने कहा, क्या आपके दोस्त नहीं है क्या? A 6-year-old boy saying, "अब मेरे दोस्त बनेंगे, now I'll have friends." अब मेरे दोस्त कैसे बनेंगे? Bonds of friendship come from interaction with children. of similar age. I said, अभी तक आपके नहीं बने? नहीं डॉक्टर साहब, मेरे साथ कोई रुकता ही नहीं, सब आगे भाग जाते, मैं पीछे रह जाता हूँ, इसलिए मैं बैठा रहता हूँ. No one stays with me, everyone runs away. But that enabling action can come from within the class. That enabling action can come from the teachers. The enabling action can come from how you evolve the child's education right from nursery class. My very close friend's child has Down syndrome. The whole family was depressed when the child was born. But looking back, he couldn't have been born into a more happy family. He was taken to a school, a public school, respected him as an old student, so introduced him into the class. He grew from nursery to up to 8th class. And beyond that, he could not be educated. His intellectual level was not good enough for further education. But look at this contrast. He was there from nursery till 8th class. At the 8th class, when his other classmates had a farewell to go to the next level, and he said, "Ab main aunga nahi, main dusre school mein jaunga," his classmates cried. Look at the contrast. It's the enabling that you create for that child in that classroom that made a difference to that child. That the class as a whole, they were upset that there is this boy who's leaving the class. They were part of him. It was not, his worth was not measured by intellect. His worth was measured by more than intellect. Emotions and bonding are not based on intellect. We have to understand that. They are based on human values and respect and dignity. When I work with polio children, I did a study again in the same village on educational levels that they achieved. And I found every child was educated. I hope I have the time. Am I rambling too much? The educational level of every child was only, so there were about 9 villages, cluster of 9 villages. I used to go from village to village on Saturdays and Sundays. After I finished my work, I would go to the village on a jeep. There were field workers who would identify disabled children, and I would go and assist them and talk to the family. And when I was collecting data on them, I was much younger, like the students sitting behind, I was as young as them. And when I interacted with them, I realized soon all of them are at least 2 grades below. Because when polio hit them, the parents were keen to get them to treatment. And in the treatment process, they lost 2 years of their academic admission time. 5 साल में admission नहीं हो पाया. 7-8 साल में हुए. 2 or 3 years was the average that they were losing. And then they were only educated to the level of the school available locally. How is that? So they had Thana Kala, Thana Khurd, Gopalpur, Jatola, each of these villages, I'm naming them. So one had a primary school. So children paralyzed in that village only were educated to that primary school. Children in Gopalpur was a large village. They had a middle school. So children paralyzed, they were all educated to the middle school because the parents could take them to the middle school, which was in the neighborhood. The whole concept of neighborhood school comes from there. That you have a neighborhood school which can educate the child up to the level that is enshrined in our constitution. Can we do that? Nobody gives you support for moving from one village to the other village to access that education. Girl child support program has fortunately begun in a big way. But that support needs a travel, and that travel needs a mobility aid that is there. Do we have that? None of our wheelchairs can function on village routes. You need to have a motorized transport. The technology for village road-based wheelchairs are not there. They're not good. So do we have a transport system? Some of the villages I went to, the only vehicle available was a tractor. Not a single car was there. Things may have changed now because land prices skyrocketing. A lot of villages have become very wealthy by selling their land, which is also not very good because they have no other skills and they end up spending it in useless things which are advertised all over. And therefore, there is another societal problem in the making there. And a lot of it goes in alcohol, which is very sad. But the fact remains that this access to education is important. And one big limiting factor in affirmative action. So people say, why do you need affirmative action? Oh, equal, like equality, we are all equal. No, that's the wrong concept. We are all not equal. We have to understand that we are not equal. We are designed to be different. We are all different with different abilities and different disabilities. But the important thing is for us to recognize and accept the fact that because we are different, we are still one. The diversity is what creates us as a society to be one. We have to respect that diversity. And disability is part of that diversity. And we have to recognize that and accept that. That is why it becomes important to allow access to schooling so that their physical disability does not end up with an intellectual challenge preventing them from achieving optimally what they could have achieved otherwise. So society has the responsibility, and I do not see support. So invariably there has to be a family member with a vehicle, motorcycle or whatever, who is taking the child to the school. When I asked them, क्यों नहीं पढ़ाया? डॉक्टर साहब कोई जानने वाला नहीं था स्कूल में, पड़ोस में नहीं था स्कूल, वो शहर में जाना पड़ता था, had to go to the city school, वहीं पर हायर सेकेंडरी है, वहां तक पढ़े हैं हम, जहां तक गांव में था वहां तक पढ़े हैं. The rest of the time they're sitting at home. And the COVID has taught us something else. I did a survey on how COVID impacted persons with disability and their caregivers. You know, so many parents told us, Dr. Saab, एक स्मार्टफोन है, 3 बच्चे हैं घर पे, 2 बच्चे हैं घर पे, एक को क्लास में कर सकते हैं, बाकी को नहीं कर सकते. How do you deal with this? The digital divide. We have to have affirmative action for removing the digital divide. Unless we do this, how do you have a level playing field? Today you say that national entrance exam for medical entrance is there. See how many children from Sonipat, Panipat and other small towns get in. There is no way they can compete from a village school at that national. No way. They cannot compete. They can only compete if they have economically developed enough to have resources to go to a school, coaching center, private school, and level of training that gives them the advantage over the others coming from villages. But in Kendriya Vidyalaya, you have usually in the towns where we had the steel plants, Bhilai, Rourkela, Bhopal, wherever we had these large industrial plants that were there were Kendriya Vidyalayas. Because public sector units, the officers were having transferable jobs. So many children have come up from these schools to the national IIT, national level medical entrance, and other schools. Why is that so? How are Kendriya Vidyalayas different from other government schools? You can have infrastructure. I think I must compliment our government for the fantastic infrastructure that they have developed. but you can have infrastructure. But what is important is to recognize the fact that there is a difference there somewhere. And what is the difference? We have analyzed it. The difference is in the Kendriya Vidyalaya in Rourkela, for example, or Bokaro, the MD's child is also going there and the Safai Wala's child is also going there. So the entire spectrum from the lowest economic category to the highest economic category, they are all in the same class. Children have no nuances about economic. They don't. You and I may worry about cars and scooters and houses and deluxe rooms and golf and all, but children don't live in that world. We embed it in their minds, culturally, socially. It's not part of their mindset at all. They work together, play together. But if the teacher is not teaching well, if the Safai Wala goes and tells the teacher, ye to theek nahi hai, she's not likely, he or she not likely to listen to him. But if the MD goes and says, bhai, my son was complaining ki ye galat bataya hai, ye nahi chalega, the stakeholder engagement. When the stakeholders are actively involved in improving the class and the teacher and the curriculum, then there is a difference. So Kendriya Vidyalayas actually by design have to perform better than other schools that are just in small towns. Because there it is divided by class. The middle class, upper class go to public schools. Public is actually it's a misnomer. They are private schools. They are not public schools. They are private schools. They're gone and there is no comparison between them and the others. Because the value system that is there is completely different. Justice Bhagawati picturesquely characterized the process of identification of release of bonded laborers. You would wonder, why am I using this here? I'll explain. As a process of discovery and transformation of non-beings into human beings, that's how he termed, when the judgment came of the Supreme Court in the Madhua Mukti Morcha Andolan in the 80s, when many bonded laborers were freed, he said this, that bonded laborers must be identified and released from the shackles of bondage so that they can assimilate themselves in the mainstream of civilized human society and realize the dignity, beauty, and worth of human existence. The dignity and worth of human existence. The disabled are shackled in their existence physically and intellectually because of what they lack in their physical and intellectual capabilities. Can we change that by giving an enabling environment for them to be able to achieve what they can achieve? Can we release them from their bondage? Society has a responsibility to release them from their bondage. Amartya Sen, the notice economist, argues that equality, whether of income or opportunity, is within a defined space and always against the expense of another space. What does he mean by that? You have the same income in Delhi as in a small village in Kerala where I come from. But what I can achieve with that income in Delhi is different from what I can achieve in that small village in Kerala. 6 of us had a dosa each and the total bill was 200 rupees. You don't get one dosa for 150 rupees here. What you can achieve with that. But the moment you have a disability, what happens here? Same income for both an able-bodied person, an able-minded person, and a disabled person. What is the disabled person going to achieve? He has limitations. He has to spend money to get to the same level. So that is what he means, that equality has a space that is associated along with the income that is there. So both have to be looked at. So we have to understand that SANE reviews different areas of equality, freedom, income, and welfare using the concept of capability. He doesn't call it ability, he calls it capability. And any concept of equality must also focus on the difficulties faced by individuals to convert, to accomplish these primary goods that are there as part of production in the society. It's important. These difficulties, SANE argues, are of two kinds, external and personal. External characteristics refer to anything that emerges from the environment of the individual. So barrier-free environment, if it is not there, that person is limited by that lack of capability that comes from that limitation. We have to understand that. So he writes about this in equality of what? It's a lovely article that is written. Equality of what? That's a question that is asking. The key to understand this is recognize the fact that a person with disability with the same income can never match a person without disability. So you have tax relief, but that doesn't help. It doesn't give him a barrier-free environment. So you go to, for example, I'll quote a classic example. I'm a faculty in IIT. I'm sure they won't like what I'm saying. Adjunct faculty, but the lift is operational not through the night. You have 7 floors. So a person with disability cannot climb to the 7th floor lab unless the lift is there. It's really becoming difficult. So disabled persons cannot access all the facilities all the time like all the other children. You got any time. Children are there working round the clock. These are some of the brightest kids under the sun in India. The brightest. And if the person with disability is there, he will not be able to access round the clock, but the lift is not round the clock. In fact, several representations were made for it to run till 8 o'clock. So their enabling thing comes from a societal understanding what needs to be done to enable a person to be part and be included in our societal function. Stephen Hawking said, I'm very lucky in many ways, but I look at it from different ways. I don't like individual actions making difference. It is there. Gandhiji said, be the change that you want society to be. But I say that I would like to take luck out of what Stephen Hawking said. I was lucky, he said. I said, no. As a society, we have a responsibility to take the luck out and make sure that every child doesn't have to say that I was lucky. No. It was good of the society to have taken care of what I needed. It was not luck that mattered. It was actually system and systemic changes that enabled me to achieve what I did. That is society which is civilized and enabling, and that is the society which provides inclusive care. So what is the way forward? I've said a lot of things, given a lot of examples to drive home my point. I've taken a long time, apologize. But what is the way forward? First of all, prevention of disabilities. So you need to do a survey to understand. So there are disabled surveys, there are any number are available, statistics are available. You need to recognize early recognition of disabilities and early access to treatment. Many children come to me from faraway villages and they say, Dr. Saab, 500 रुपए रहते हैं एक बारी में आने का और जाने का 500 रुपए 1000 रुपए नहीं आया जा. When I call them back for treatment. So if the local facility is good enough to ensure care with the skills that is required for him, then this crying need of access will be met with. Access to early recognition and care is important. Continued care and support for caregivers. The caregivers by definition is anybody who is not a family member, but that's a WHO definition, who is not a family member, but who is taking care of the child. But a family member in countries like India, Southeast Asia, we have family members taking care, and they are important part of care of the disabled, particularly the multiply disabled, particularly the severely disabled. So we have to recognize them and have a quantification for the economic value for what they do in their lives. We have to transfer that and translate that into money's worth. Unless we do that, that life of that mother who is going through drudgery day in and day out, changing nappies of a 16-year-old boy is not an easy thing. No bladder control, spina bifida. It's not an easy thing. It's a life of hell. But it's amazing and humbling to see these parents take care of their children. They do that. That has to be. Spina bifida, for example. The US and Europe, practically you don't see spina bifida. Why? It's been eliminated from them. Why? Because preconception folic acid can eliminate spina bifida. I see so many, in every clinic of mine, I'll see 2 or 3 spina bifida children. I'm just doing a thesis on them. So many are there. Preventable. We can prevent that. So prevention, early recognition, and management. And recognition of the worth of caregivers and need for continued care. Early inclusive education. That is the only reason they will grow. So many children are there that I interact with. 20-year-old, 24-year-old, when they start talking, they talk like 8-year-old. Why? They have led a cocooned existence protected by their parents. You and I have not grown up and matured as adults. Not because we were cocooned by our parents, but because we did everything which our parents told us, ye karna chahiye, ye nahi karna chahiye, ye dekhna chahiye, ye nahi dekhna chahiye, ye dekhna hai. We did so many things that our parents told us not to do. We experimented, made mistakes, and learned the hard way. That has taught us and made us mature adults. These children lead cocooned lives. So therefore, they don't grow up in terms of maturity. They're little children. They are little children and people don't understand that. They have to grow up. And that growing up with peers. Yesterday, I had a person, a classmate of mine from college coming over, and there was a class reunion. And at the class reunion, I was not there. They called me up online. The class reunion, I was trying to write for this lecture. The class reunion, everyone was so excited and talking. And when you get together as peers from your class, you feel nothing has changed. He's not changed at all. The conversational, intellectual interaction is the same as we remember from school or college. That bonding is different. That friendship is different. Do we give the disabled that opportunity of inclusive education for that friendship and bonding? If yes, we are civilized. If no, we have a long way to go. Early inclusive education. Sometimes you may need exclusive combined with inclusive. They may need special classes. They may need special situations. They may need special. So how do we do this? How do we achieve this? I was chair of the School of Rehabilitation Sciences. School under the Action for Ability Development and Inclusion, ADI. We used to run a postgraduate diploma course on disability. And that included physiotherapy, occupational therapy, special education, all were there. So there were 2 streams, special education and the education for special needs children. Later on, we realized, and ADI used to run a school for persons with disabilities, cerebral palsy children essentially. Then we realized if we are only running a school for them, we are actually violating our own principle, what we stand by of inclusive education. So we requested the permission of the university that can we change it and make it a different stream where we bring in teachers from colleges and schools to educate the teachers on how to deal with a person with disability. The biggest fear is the fear of doing harm. So no teacher wants to take the responsibility. You can't blame them also. They don't know. They have to be enabled. They have to be empowered to take responsibility for a person with disability, for a child with cerebral palsy, for a child with spina bifida, a child with autism. How do you deal with? They don't know. I think Ramayana says, "Bhai bin preet nahi." Bhai bin preet nahi. If you have fear, but you have the desire to help, then you can create that enabling environment and train them to help these children while they are in inclusive education. So what is needed is all schools, all classes must have teachers that are trained in dealing with disabled children. And unless you have that, they will not be included, and they will always say, "Ab bhi mere dost nahi bane." We want to change that, and that's possible only by training teachers across classes, across schools on this. And one big limitation to access is the disability certificate. Professor Haritima talked about employment. Excellent. You have affirmative action, 5% reservation, but there are no takers. Why aren't there takers? They're not takers because they are not able to get to school. They are not able to get to college. Why? Because access is a problem. Upper class always manage. It's the lower middle class and the lower class that have a problem economically. They cannot manage. It's not possible. So many of them they come to me, "Doctor Sahab, दिहाड़ी है, आज आएंगे तो दिहाड़ी चली जाएगी, बार बार मत बुलाइएगा." Daily wage earners, unorganized sector, if they come every day to a hospital, they lose their day's wages. The whole family has a nutrition problem then. The whole family has a problem. How do you deal with that? There is no compensatory income for that family for that day's visit in the hospital. It's not there. So we need to ensure that the access to care also is with disability certificate. And that disability certificate is one big issue. Once I was made chair of a committee of the National Commission for the person with disability, and they asked me to prepare a simple format for disability evaluation. The one that is there, earlier one was a straight cut copy paste on the Medicare Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. Then there was the Verma committee which formed all the Institute of Medical Sciences, which changed. There's a newer version now. I've not even looked at it. But if it needs an orthopedic surgeon, there is a problem. If it needs, so if the child has got cerebral palsy, it needs an orthopedic surgeon and a psychologist, psychiatrist to do intellectual assessment, and then only you will get the certificate. So first the date. Date is 1 year down the line. Next date for the psychologist, equally difficult. How many psychologists are there? They're all taken up by private schools and by HR companies. That's the biggest buzzword. HR companies hire psychologists. They all bought over. Good job opportunities there. That's an opportunity. Yeah? Good job opportunities there. They are all taken up, grabbed by them. They're not there for IQ assessment of children in government schools. But unless you have an IQ assessment, you don't get a disability certificate. And unless you have 40% that magic figure, you can't get the disability certificate. So the rat race is, "Doctor Sahab, 40% to kar do." So to get that magical 40% disability and above, you get everything. Less than that, you get nothing. I think it has to be a graded way. Not above and below that magical figure. You build in corruption by system. So there is a corruption by system where there is a 1 year waiting list. वो तो फॉर्म तो है साल महीने में होने वाला है, प्लीज करा दीजिएगा कैसे न कैसे कराएंगे? 1000 रुपए दे दिए, ये आपका, ओ ठीक है जल्दी कर देंगे. कोई आया नहीं, उसकी जगह इसको डाल दिया. Systemic corruption by policy. To avoid that, to make it simple, a school teacher should be able to assess the degree. If it is physical amputation, physical cerebral palsy, physical hemiplegia, physical diplegia, it's easy. For mental illness, you may need some other support. Can you simplify it so that it can be verified easily by 2 other people from the school and make it accessible so that children can accept and be admitted into schools easily? Not just formal education, non-formal education is equally important. Affirmative action, I gave you all the examples. The caregivers, there is no affirmative action for them. Their service is not recognized. They go through a drudgery of existence throughout their lives. All parents come, Doctor, हमें चिंता है हमारे बाद क्या होगा? Every parent is worried, हमारे बाद क्या होगा? That disabled child, हमारे बाद क्या society will take over? No relative likes to take over a disabled child. Nobody. Will the society take over like in Northeast countries? There the society takes over. Their taxpayers' money used for that center for elderly, for that center for severely disabled, they can take care. So until the parents, can we do something? And non-discriminating action in whatever we do. And that is possible only when we build capacity. Capacity building for teachers, capacity building for professionals, psychologists, orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons, and neurologists. One limitation I have is competent neurologists who can look after childhood disability. They are very few, because there are too many syndromes. They are very difficult to memorize. And they are far too complex, symptoms and signs to diagnose them correctly. So human resource is a challenge. Teachers, one has to think of diplomas. And in fact, we even talked to the Delhi University on this. The Central Institute of Education could build it into their educational curriculum for B.Ed and M.Ed for this kind of a facility. It can be done. It's doable. It should be done. One neglected area, I'll not take too long, another 2-3 minutes. One neglected area is research. There is very little true research happening in this area. What we have is just compilation of few data and publication of this. True research on impact and outcome is very limited. Use of technology. I was at this meeting organized by WHO, where there were people from the entire Southeast Asia region were there. And there was this presenter from Italy. And he was showing us a smartphone on an application that is created where they're able to do a lot of things for person with disabilities. And I asked him, how come you're working in this area? No, I'm in an institute where our job is to do this kind of a technology. So I suddenly thought Italy is a small country. I said, is that the only center in Italy? No, sir. We have 6 such centers across Italy for doing just this kind of a technological research. 6 institutes for a small country, small population like Italy. How many do we have? I don't know. It may be private enterprise doing research, and they normally don't do pure research. All private enterprises do applied research. And globally, we have to understand, good scientific understanding has not come from applied research. Good scientific understanding has been coming from pure research in universities which are publicly funded, not privately funded. Because pure research is expensive, pure research is difficult, pure research needs commitment of a lifetime to keep looking at things and come out with valid conclusions. Social security, we need to create that for caregivers and persons with disability. Talked about one person, polio patient of mine, he would keep phoning me, Doctor Sahab, मेरा घर पे ना बारिश में पानी चोता है, कुछ करा सकते हो? So I try to talk to people to help out. Very few people want. When I request them for care for their surgery, they are willing to help. When I request them for house, doctor, we can't get. ये हमारा जो है ना policy doesn't allow that. that for a person with disability, can the housing be an important issue? Taking this on, we have the metro. We have millions of rupees spent on the metro. But how many new hostels are there in different colleges to enable children not to travel distances, but to have easy access to colleges, easy access to university? When I entered university, I topped the university entrance scholarship exam. I don't know whether it happens now or not. And the condition was I have to stay in a hostel. And my college did not have a hostel. So they made a special permission, 100 rupees scholarship per month, special permission. Without hostel, you get this. But that college still doesn't have a hostel. So many years have passed by. So our vision has to be access also improves and time spent. See, we know in transportation circles, people live about an hour away from the transport facility that accesses them to their place of work or study. So if you have a metro, they will live 1 hour down the line. If you create a high-speed bullet train, they will go further away. Utne dur chalayenge. They have balanced it out to 1 hour. But change that. Flexi times, change that. Technology is there. Give them access to hostels. Think of hostels. Think of other alternatives. Out of the box thinking so that they have access. How do you make it? In the survey that I did during COVID time, most 90%, what was their worry? Dr. Saab, kal ka pata nahi, income nahi hai. So then I looked at the national schemes for persons without jobs. Naukri nahi hai, naukri chali gayi. Manrega is only for the physically able. There is no Manrega for the disabled. Can we create a Manrega for the disabled? We have to think out of the box. Can we get them to do some productive work which gives them an income and the caregivers also? Do we have that? Dr. Hartima talked about entrepreneurship, employment and entrepreneurship. Day before yesterday in the outpatient, a child came to me, not a child, young man, 26. I tend to call everyone child. 26-year-old man with cerebral palsy with severely disabled hands. He asked me, कुछ हो सकता है? मैंने कहा हो सकता है, मैं ऑपरेशन करूंगा, उसमें टाइम लगेगा, 6 हफ्ते से 8 हफ्ते लगेंगे, उसके बाद एक्सरसाइजेस हैं, सब बहुत मुश्किल है, जल्दी नहीं हो सकता, मैं क्या करती हूँ? वो पुल बंगश पे है ना, मेरा जो एक खोखा लगा रखा मैंने, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, इज हेमिप्लेजिक, पैरालाइज्ड, खोखा लगा रखा है वहां पे. मैंने कहा अगर मैं ऑपरेशन करूंगा फिर खोखा कौन चलाएगा? वो बंद करना पड़ेगा डॉक्टर साहब. Entrepreneurship which is lost during that time of care. He should have been treated right in his childhood. He's lost that opportunity. Now he's come and is wanting to access, to be better abled, but there is no social security that provides him that support during that period. Actual story, not a concocted story. Day before yesterday in my outpatient, the mother was there. मैं डॉक्टर साहब मैं किसी के घर काम कर लूंगी. Look at the way they are willing to do anything. Entrepreneurship to ensure that access to care is there. I think it's important that we as a society recognize that human beings, whatever with their size, shape, color, ability, capability, disability, whatever you call it, they're all part of our society, and we need to work together to get them to be with us. And we no longer have a situation where a 6-year-old has to say, "Ab mere dost banenge 6 saal ke baad." Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that incredibly insightful and moving talk. You also talked about the role of the higher education institutes. So this reminded me that how in our college also it's fully accessible. There are ramps everywhere. Even in the new science block, which has just been recently constructed, we also have a lift. And that was particularly put in place, keeping in mind the differently able students and some of the faculty members as well.
Congratulations.
That's what came to mind when I heard you talk about that. Also, you took us into the thick of things, telling us about the actual problem, sharing your experiences, your direct conversations with people. That I'm sure that really sensitized all of us sitting over here, because we are just aware about the ideas, but you translated those ideas into actual experiences as you interacted with those people. So thank you so much for that. Also including research. It's incredibly inspiring to see that somebody of your stature is still continuing to do research and still making a difference. So that inspires all of us who are sitting here, that no matter whatever stages we are in our life and in our careers, we continue to research, we continue to make a difference. And as everybody has been saying, and Professor Chopra also said, that we need to put our bit of drop into the bucket and into the ocean. Thank you ever so much, sir, for that incredibly moving talk.
Grateful.
Sir, I'm sure that we have a lot of questions here which are waiting. We can see that in the chat box as well. Maybe we can begin first with the questions of those who've joined us online. And meanwhile, those who are with us here physically present, should you have any questions, we would be very happy to take those. Okay, I'll do that.
Sorry, I took too long, I think, and didn't leave time for questions.
I'm just scrolling through. Yeah, so this is a question by Zena, who says, sir, can you kindly throw some light on rights such as of representation, participation, policy, and decision making, particularly the idea nothing about us without us? Then there's a question by Tariq Basir. He says, sir, you have raised a valid point regarding issuance of certificates and the least research in the field. There was one more question by Manisha as well. So would you like to first answer these two and maybe then do we go to the next questions?
Yeah, the whole concept of nothing about us without us came from the Projimo project of David Werner. So David Werner did a Projimo project in Mexico, and there the village disabled children, they were organized together by David Werner, and the village committees, it was important that for any decision that had an effect on the disabled child, the disabled and their family was also part of the stakeholders. So that's why the stakeholder engagement becomes important. That's an important message that we can convey to the governments, policymakers, that in these operations on activities and policies for persons with disability, their stakeholders should also be part of the team, and it should be an important part. So at times, see, I always believe a stakeholder may be sitting there, but who is disabled may be sitting there, but may not be able to understand the nuances of policy making, may not be able to understand the nuances of the details of things that are required. So you need to have a mixed bag. Nothing about us without us, yes. But once you talk about it, they immediately understand the response. So in ADI, when we have a board meeting, we discuss, and we have personal disability there. So when we say something, immediately they can connect. They warn us. So they may not understand the nuances, but they're able to respond to a decision that we're taking and immediately tell you, this is going to work, this is not going to work. So that's why the stakeholder engagement becomes very important. So nothing about us without us. The original David Werner concept is an important concept today, and we like to have that. That's why the whole thing about empowerment and participation, equal gender representation, equal representation of all diversity. The other thing is policy making has to be with this understanding. Whenever we have policies, we take care of that.
Thank you, sir. The other question is by Shama Major, who says, can I request to have sir email ID, because I'm doing a research on leprosy. That is, of course, a personal request there. Yeah, there's another question which says by Manisha. She says that, sir, you spoke about the parents of children with disability, but could you also speak about the children of persons with disabilities and if a medical legal support system should be in place for them?
I'm not sure if I would like to use the medical legal. The moment you bring in the medical legal issue, you have problems. I'm not comfortable with that. A policy decision to help out persons with disability and their children is an important policy decision that can be built in for social security, can be built in for economic, support, affirmative action, whichever way you want to take it. But medical legal issue, I don't know whether I understand the question well. I'm not comfortable in medicine. When we talk about medical legal, the police come in, and I'm not comfortable with the police state and the police society.
Thank you so much for that, sir. Now I also open the house for any questions from the audience here. Okay, we have a gentleman here to the left. Smriti ma'am, how much time do we have to go in with the questions? Okay. Meanwhile, I'll encourage the others also to come up and ask.
Sir, my question is regarding the disability certificate. Like what I understood from your speech that we should not be like so much strict. Suppose the government has decided that 40% disability must be there for getting any certificate. But if we become lenient in that thing, so the problem which is going to come is that there are so many people in India like who will be going for a fake certificate. So that is my doubts.
Can you answer that? Oh, sorry. Yeah, when I said the 40% as a magical figure, I said this just to explain the issue. I said this to explain to you that by policy you're creating a corruption possibility. Therefore, I said that. But all that I wanted to emphasize was the disability certificate, access to disability certificate should be simple and easy. Evaluation for disability percentages should be transparent and simple so that the person sitting across can verify quickly, is this 40%, 50% correct or not? So the transparency of the process for disability certification should be so that anybody can cross check. क्या यह 40% genuine है या नहीं है? क्या यह 50% है genuine है या नहीं है? क्या यह 20%? अगर amputation है, below-knee amputation है तो automatically 40% हो जाता है. उसमें disability certification के लिए जाने की जरूरत नहीं होनी चाहिए. वो स्कूल टीचर भी कर सकता है, लेकिन वो नहीं होता, उसको भी जाना पड़ता है. प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है उससे? The burden of the disability certification board increases tremendously. The obvious should not be sent there. The technically demanding one should be sent there. So the board should be looking at only difficult cases, not simple process, easy cases. That is the point I'm trying to make. I'm not saying that make it just lay it open, but even there we have to see if, as madam said, the employment opportunity, they are there, the number of takers are very few, they're not there. So that means there is some problem somewhere. How do you address that?
Do we have any other questions? Okay, yeah. So we have two hands.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Krishna Kumar. My question is, sir, do you also suggest some mechanism for the parents of disabled children? Because many a times the government assistance is available, policies are available, schemes are available, social security is available in several states. But the parents of disabled children, either they don't know or they don't know how to access them. You also suggest state level or central level mechanism to guide for the parents of disabled children. Thank you.
It's a very important area. Many people have no clue how to access facilities that they have actually entitlement for. Number two, they don't know what they're entitled for. So there is a need for educating parents of persons with disability. Maybe you can create associations, maybe you can create mechanisms to empower persons with disability and their caregivers on what is their entitlement, where to access, how to ensure that they have continued care without going to the drudgery of red tape and bureaucracy. It needs empowerment, it needs education of the caregivers, and there are NGOs working in this area, there are societies working in this area. In fact, many of the people in Adi that I'm associated with, the counselors very clearly explain to them, in fact, many of them, when I tell some of them, you have income tax relief, they don't even know that. They don't even know that.
I would need to think about this, pre-detection, prenatal detection of disability. So the ongoing debate says this is a very ableist way of looking at the world. So what is your view on having a first-hand encounter with problems of disability and having this also access, which would make the world perhaps more ableist? What would be your view?
Thank you. Thank you. I deliberately left the topic out. Do you know the future of medicine? What is the biggest challenge? Anyone? Future of medicine, the biggest challenge is ethical. It is not going to be science, it is not going to be biology, it is ethics. The biggest challenge of future of medicine is ethical challenge. Eugenics is the future. We are there. We can genetically manipulate things. Your mRNA vaccine is the classical example. mRNA is a tweaked virus RNA. We have been able to get the virus, culture it, and tweak the genetics of the virus to make it less harmful. SP protein antigenic property only and no other property, recognizable by our antibodies and therefore recognized by our T cells to create more T cells and create more humoral antibodies. Just the beginning. The beginning was opened up about less than 2 decades ago, 10 years back, almost, I don't remember the exact, with the CRISPR-Cas9 technology. There is a fight between 2 universities on this because they know that Nobel Prize is part of this. There's a legal fight going on CRISPR-Cas9 technology. CRISPR is an acronym. It stands for Clustered Regularly Interspersed Short Palindromic Repeats. Well, a tongue twister. But the bottom line is, with CRISPR-Cas9 technology, if you have the genes for motor neuron disease like Stephen Hawking's, he can tweak the genes right at the embryo stage and get normal genes. So what all are you going to tweak? Are you going to tweak motor neuron disease? Are you going to tweak cystic fibrosis in the lung? Are you going to tweak osteogenesis imperfecta? Are you going to tweak dystrophic dwarfism? Are you going to tweak all those Perry-Robin syndrome and all the other syndromes that are there and have, or are you going to tweak genes so that that shape of the nose is an Iranian nose? When you go to Iran, you know what you see? Go to Tehran, stay in a hotel. Striking thing what I found. Morning when I went down to the breakfast, there were people with their bandage on the nose. Evening, again, I found people with their bandage. So I was wondering what's wrong. Till I spoke to an Iranian. I asked him, what is wrong? You know, there is a rage in Iran that the nose has to be this particular shape. So the plastic surgeons have a field day trying to reshape the noses to that particular kind. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. So even in India, we had that. When I was sitting with the plastic surgeon, a patient came to the plastic surgeon. I'm not a plastic surgeon, asking, oh, Doctor Saab, मेरा नाक जरा ठीक नहीं है, वो मनीषा कोइराला जैसे नाक चाहिए. That's eugenic for you, where you want to decide your size, shape, size, configuration, intellectual, everything is on genes. Billion genes plus. Even the way this little hair here, the size, the length, the shape, the way it changed color with age, all predetermined by your genes. Eugenics is the future. It is a challenge. I have parents of clubfoot children diagnosed prenatally asking for termination of pregnancy. I counsel them, no, I can treat it and get your child back. And if you had prenatal diagnosis like we have today, potentials, then Helen Keller wouldn't be there. Then your John Sebastian Bach wouldn't be there. I think the 9th or the 10th child of a syphilitic mother with problems. He was hearing impaired incidentally, if I remember correctly. All those persons with disabilities, Stephen Hawking wouldn't have been there. All those people who contributed to society. This society, we have to understand, its strength lies in its diversity, not uniform, regimented society. No. The strength of the society is the brownies as much as the whiteys, as much as the blackies, as much as the yellow ones. We are all there. It builds up. Don't think we love gardens. I'm a keen gardener. We don't just look at the flowers. The weeds are as important. The earthworm is as important as the tiger in the forest. We have to recognize that. Only then we'll recognize diversity and respect diversity and accept it. But the point is, everyone has a level of potential. Can we get him to get that potential? That is the emphasis of inclusiveness. I hope I made my point.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir, for very patiently answering all those queries from the audience. I would now like to request our conference convener, Dr. Smriti Singh, to please deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you.
आप सभी से निवेदन है कि अपने वीडियो ऑन कर लें और
For the participants who have joined us online, I request all of you to please turn on your videos. You have been given access so that we can take a group photograph. All the participants online, please turn on your videos.
That was our principal ma'am and all my dear students. It's my privilege.
ऑनलाइन भी देख रहे हैं हम लोग ऑनलाइन
कैमरे में आना है. Okay, done. It's my privilege to be here and to present vote of thanks. I don't know for what I should present each of you vote of thanks, because you all are important part of my life and important part of this conference. I really understand one thing. Conferences like this and talk like Dr. Matthew prepares us for us. Today, I have one challenge. Tomorrow, I can have more challenge. Today, you have no challenge. Tomorrow, you can have many challenges. Every day, road accident happens. Many people die. But most of the time, many people become disabled. We don't have correct figure for that. So, this kind of talk not only prepares us to help others, it prepares us to prepare us for our difficulty, how we are going to face it. As a parent, as a teacher, as a class fellow, as a people. Whatever it is, our conference or awareness program, I would like to thank NIVH institution, Dr. Himanshu Das. The moment I told him about this conference and everything, I guess Pankaj is here. He is present with us, assistant professor from NIVH. I would like to thank the institution for giving us financial support and for giving us emotional support to conduct this conference. I would like to thank our chief guest, Professor Shri Prakash Singh ji, who accepted our invitation. Sir, I cannot thank you, because thank you is very small word for you. You have been part and parcel of this conference. Like a 5-year-old, I would be gambling and doing these things. This is not running right, sir. You would be like, everything would be fine. Don't get worried. I did not know how things will work. Your blessing, your support, everything is there. Vaibhav sir, your emotional support, your blessings and your presence makes difference. I would like to thank our dearest principal, who has been always supporting to me and always took our program in priority and gave us permission. Many a times we made mistake, but she stood for us. She corrected those mistakes. Thank you so much, all my NSS students who have been working tirelessly entire day, and for 4 days you have been working constantly, and you have to work right now. Okay, so it's just thank you for organizing team, like right now organize inauguration function. Okay, so be prepared for that. So we have to be available, we have to work entire day. It's not over. And last but not least, my organizing body, Poonam ma'am, Mithila, Nupur, Krishangi, Savita, everyone. And of course, we convener, we deserve to congratulate ourselves and thank ourselves. Thank you so much. Army Welfare Association, MD, Mr. R.K. Raina would be, Major General R.K. Raina would be there. He would be talking about all the initiative which has been taken by Army. I request all the participants to finish their lunch and be there at 2 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Announcement for the participants here. The conference participants, there's an arrangement for lunch for all of you as well. You're requested to proceed to the committee room for lunch, and students will have to go to the canteen with their coupons to procure lunch. So participants, conference participants in the committee room and students in the canteen. Thank you.